From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spire on the radio.
Hello to Cool Rekz. How are you today?
Good.
Yes, very well, thank you.
Thank you for letting me interview you today. So, can you tell me how long have you been as Cool? How long have you started for? Group started for?
Myself and David, who are sort of lifelong friends, we started the band in the summer of 2018. And Alicia joined us in August of 2021. So she's been with us a couple of years now.
Yeah.
So, and basically from 2018, we started, it was very much a standing start. David messed about with guitar since he was younger. I'd done nothing musically at all. Didn't sing, didn't play anything. So it really was starting from a standing start, really.
So, can you tell me more about your debut single called "The World Gone Mad"?
Yeah, basically, one of the first songs we wrote, and it started out, if I remember, we were trying to do something. I think it was slower, wasn't it? It was it was going to be a mid-tempo slow ballad, and we were writing it with a friend here at the same time, and he sort of thought, well, maybe speed it up a little bit, and I just found this two-chord riff, basically D and C, which just seemed to work with those lyrics that Anthony had written, or Anthony's lyrics. And it's basically just a repeat cycling loop of two chords, effectively. And we just got the tempo, put it to a backbeat, drum pattern. Because when we wrote it, Alicia wasn't with us. We didn't have a drummer. We'll perhaps come to how Alicia came to be in the band a bit later, but we didn't have a drummer. So we just wrote with drum loops effectively, and that's how that came about. And we just put the song together that way, really, me doing D and C chords, and then as time went on, Andy's picked up the bass and learned the bass and added to it, because that single, like the whole of that first album, was done without Alicia. It was put together before Alicia joined us, and we had a friend of ours, another friend of ours, produce it and put it together for us and master it, if you like, and he put drums on that album from his recording package. So that's basically how that song came together. It changed life. The early genesis of it, if you like, was as a slower mid-tempo song, but didn't quite work. Interestingly, we've got another song on that album that's The Other Way. We tried to do that very quickly, fast I should say, but that turned out to be slower, called I Need a Girl. But that's basically how our first sort of single came about, like that, really. It was good. Early writing experience for us.
So, can you tell me about Mr. Positive?
Yeah, do you want to do that one? Answer that?
Yeah, I mean that was the second single from the album. It's actually about one of our friends who was just really positive about everything. You know, there could be an air raid going on and he'd find something positive to say about it. But musically, again, this was very, very, very early in the band's incarnation, and I knew nothing about songwriting. So although I wrote the lyrics, again, it was David really that came up with the music. But I think I can only speak for us, but I think when a band first starts up, you've got so many ideas that to start off with, it's really easy to write songs. You've probably been storing them up subconsciously for a while, but basically it was a homage to one of our close friends, just to reflect the fact that, you know, that he was always positive. And again, we liked it. Sometimes a song can come together really quickly and it just works and it fits, and other times you have to wrestle with it. But this song was very much one that came together really quickly, and it was my favourite track on the album.
So, can you tell me more about the other tracks that are on The Roy's Gone Mad album.
Yeah, I was just saying about I Need a Girl. That was an interesting one because I remember I was round this flat one night and Andy, again, just to make you confirm, Andy's the songs, sorry, all Anthony's lyrics. Andy gave me these lyrics and we were trying to do something fast up tempo punky. Oh, I need to go, and it just couldn't work. And I went home and I couldn't sleep that night for some reason. I got up at home and I've got a little 8-track digital recorder. It's got lots of drum loops on it. And I just started playing around and I just don't know why this slow drum beat I put together, mixed a couple of drum loops, and this bass riff came into my head, and I just started playing that, and the lyrics seemed to work against this bass riff, like a more sinister, not seedy really, but just a darker sort of sound, and it grew out of that. And I remember I put this demo together in about an hour, and I emailed it Andy about 4 a.m. And he come back to me about an hour later. Yeah, this is great. Let's go with that. I love that. And that was one of them. Stuff in Your Books again, one of Andy's sets of lyrics, and that lended itself to a punky style riff and tempo. That was a good one to put together as well. That came quite as just a 4-chord one. Yeah, and that's what.
Well, I mean, the album as a whole. I mean, we decided in. What we thought we wanted to do was take all the songs we'd written in the first 2 years, pick the best ones out, and sort of have a bit of a reflection of our first 1.5 years of songwriting. So we picked some songs that we'd first written, songs that we'd written a few months later, and then there was a couple of tracks. One of the tracks, the music I sort of started, was a track called Ghost Train. That was recorded, well, that was written and recorded literally in the last 3 or 4 weeks before the album was released. But really, we just wanted a broad representation of our journey, if you like, over the sort of 18 months of us writing our own songs. I mean, we were never really that interested in just doing covers. I mean, for a start, we were still trying to learn our craft, and if you sing a lot of covers, people know what that song's supposed to sound like, so they can critique you. And for me, really, it wouldn't. I know there's a big market for covers bands, but musically, it doesn't scratch my itch just to do covers. It would have to be something we created. So that album really was a representation of the first sort of 18 months of our life as a band. And I think all things considered, considering really, as I say, we started from a standing start, it was, I think we did okay. And we were lucky that we had a friend that had a little bit of experience of producing, and he put that together well, and he's a lot more experienced than us, so he guided us. We were very naive musically, in terms of click tracks and do's and don'ts, and I think considering how young we were as a band, I think we did well on that album. So yeah.
So how did Cool Rekz get its name from?
Do you want me to do that one, or do you want you to do that?
I'll do that one just in case. Well, we decided, the reason why we decided to form the band, I'm not too sure why we decided really. I mean, it was always Dave. Yeah, it was always Dave's ambition to be in a band, but we decided that what we were going to do was David was going to teach me 3 covers. It was coming up to a landmark birthday for us, so we decided to book out the local hall. And my sister said, I'll go in and do the decorations for you. And she said, what's your band called? And I said, well, we haven't got a band, we haven't got a name. And he said, wait, she said, you've got to have a name. I went, well, I suppose we have. And she says, look, I've got, these party packs you can get with letters on in stars. She said, I've got a couple of party packs. I'll see what I can come up with the letters that are available. and she literally just said, "I've come up with something called Cool Rekz," and we just thought it was a clever name, really. You know, a wreck, which is cool, which is a bit of a contradiction in terms, really. But it just stuck. We liked it. A lot of people didn't, but me and Dave liked it. So that's how the band name came about. Really, it was something as random as that.
Yeah.
So how did your drummer come involved?
Yeah, so I'll speak. Yeah, so basically I literally live across the road from Anthony, which is quite funny. And then what year was it? 2021, did you say?
No, it was a year
don't even
before,
know.
about August 2020 is when I
Yeah.
first heard you.
Around then, because I've got a drum kit in my room, and then I'd be playing, and obviously it's quite loud because it's an acoustic one, not electric. And then Anthony heard me, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then or I think after, I'm not sure when, but then he apparently went around listening into the houses, like and then heard which house it was coming from. So he wrote a letter, put it through my door. He was like, "Hello, we're in a band. We need a drummer," because obviously they didn't have a drummer. And then with like contact details on the bottom. So I just contacted him, was like, "Hello, this is me." And then went round, said, "Hello, this is me. Hello." And then from there, just pretty much tried it out, and then just to all the original songs that they'd already made. So some of the ones that are already on the album, like say "World's Gone Mad," stuff like that. I just sort of did my own thing to it, because a lot of the songs on the album, they're just like a drum loop. So that's not like me. That's not drums. That's not what I consider to be anyway. So now I do my own thing to all of the songs, really. That's just sort of what I've done, like with playing them live as well. They don't sound all that similar to how it is on the album. I just thought I'd do my own thing.
It was actually a full year. I heard Alicia in the summer of 2020, and although I can see her house from here, there's a big hedge that separates the streets. So I'd have to walk the long way round to try and find where she was drumming. By the time I'd get round there, she'd stop drumming, and it was on and off. And I kept saying to David, "I heard them drums again today," because where they're coming from, and I couldn't tell. And it was only sheer luck. The ice cream van came one day, and I happened to be in her street when she started drumming, so I found where it was. But that was literally a whole year later. So we could have had her on board a year earlier, really. If we'd have done that, if I'd have located where she was, she'd have been on the album, the first album. Whereas really, in the end, she didn't end up being on it hardly at all, really. But yeah, that's how it all came about.
Yeah.
Well, she's there now. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Right for it.
For the next album as well.
Yeah. So, can you tell me more about your first single that released this year called "It's Life"?
It's Life. That was the first single from this album. Just give you very quickly some background. This album was going to be our third album. We had a second album lined up, but I think it was quite ambitious. It was brand new songs. There was a lot of tracks on there. We were struggling to meet the deadline we'd set, which was the summer of this year. And then one day David showcased a brand new acoustic guitar he'd got, and we just hit on this idea that because we really wanted to get something out this year, how about we sort of take half the tracks from the first album, reimagine them acoustically, and then just add another 6 brand new tracks that probably don't really sort of fit the third album. We thought that would be quicker to get out, but that ended up taking best part of half a year. But It's Life. Again, we wrote that probably about a year and a half ago. I just gave Dave a set of random lyrics, and you came up with something, didn't you? And then when we decided we were going to make the second album the third album, if you like, and the third album this second album, we thought that was a perfect candidate, really, because it's not really us. It's not as you know, people would describe it as sort of an indie rock band, and its life's a bit more mainstream, a bit more happy clappy.
It's bordering on folk, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
So this really is a bit of a bits and bobs and something to be going on with the album. And that song really is probably typical of all the songs on the album, really. That they're sort of songs that we wouldn't ordinarily put on another album. So we just thought it was a good idea to sort of take these songs that have been buzzing about and just throw them on there. So that's what we did really with that particular single.
Should also mention that there's not any drums on that song. Because it is more like mellowish.
Yeah, you used the
use a kalimba, so it's like a little percussion instrument that's about that big, like a little square sort of. So it's just a sort of little percussive instrument that I used instead. That's, I don't know how to describe it. It's quite high sounding and low sounding at the same time, but you can hear it distinctively in the song, like it's something different. It's just something different, really. Just cool, I suppose.
Yeah, we just took this album in the end as an opportunity just to experiment, really. Yeah. It is really a bit of an odds and a sods album, so we've done a lot of things that we wouldn't ordinarily do, and we just threw them all together, really, and thought, you know, what the heck. So that was the background on that one, really.
So can you tell me more about your latest single called I Don't Hate You?
Yeah, I'll let David speak about this one. This is a very old one.
It's a very old song. It's an old set of lyrics you gave me when we sort of first started that early batch. And again, the lyrics speak themselves. It's about trying to move away from people conflicting and arguing on a personal level and on a more high level in politics and public life. But I just sat there with these lyrics and I got my guitar, started playing, and I just found this chord sequence that seemed to quite work with that set of lyrics. Quite an ironic, I think it's hard to describe music, isn't it? But an ironic sort of feel to the song. And I personally really like it. I think it's one of our better songs, the lyric-wise. And it speaks a lot for this current time we're in. Well, the current few years, there's a lot of political debate and argument. I know that is always the case since time began, but there's a lot of anger and hatred going on in the world. And I think it's a really good set of lyrics. It's trying to extinguish that or take a step back and look at it and say, look, can we do this? Can we not have all this? But the music I put to it, I just thought seemed to fit, and it all I really like. It's quite a powerful song. And interestingly, when we play it live, we do it electrically. But on this album, we thought trying the acoustic version. But I think both the versions work really, really well. Obviously, we've not recorded the electric version, which is similar, but obviously electric, more powerful in guitars, etc. But yeah, I think it's one of our better songs. I really like it. And good set of lyrics.
So can you tell me more about your new album with releases tomorrow called Cut?
Yeah, I mean, as I alluded to earlier, this is really a bit of a sort of stopgap album. We didn't want to rush what we probably consider to be our second album proper, which is going to be our third album, which we will return to now and start working on. As I say, half the album are tracks that we've reimagined from the first album into an acoustic bass, hence the name Power Cut, because we're using basically an acoustic setup. And the other 6 songs that we've added to it are sort of songs that were left over that didn't fit on the first album or we didn't feel were completed at the time. The six new tracks weren't really candidates to go on our forthcoming album, which is really going to be a return to how the style of the first album, which was high energy, high octane, very rocker. This is very much a laid back album. It's going to raise a few eyebrows amongst the people that know our music. You know, we've cut our teeth live locally now in Leicester. We've played quite a few gigs now, and I think going forward, this was a good learning curve because I produced this album. It's not the smoothest produced album you'll ever hear. I won't pretend it will be, but I think it will stand us in good stead for the next album. So, ironically, I see this second album as something of having a somewhat shorter life than the first album. I mean, we released the first album now. Nearly 2 years ago now, it would have been, well, February 22. So yeah, nearly 2 years ago now. Whereas I think by the time we get to the summer, we'll sort of be ready to release our third album. So this really is, as I say, a stopgap album, and just an opportunity really for us to experiment a little bit and tone things down and just experiment with different percussion, as Alicia did with the kalimba. And we've done a lot of work with blocks on this. Xylophone. Yeah, there's some of the tracks have xylophone on there. There's only 2 or 3 tracks that have sort of traditional drums on there. So really, it was just something to expand our repertoire, really. But again, I'm really pleased with how it's turned out.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. And just what we were saying about our style, I think if you listen to the first album, there's a track on there called Luxor, which again, Anthony's lyrics, as they all are, about his experiences visiting Egypt, as he's done a lot in the past. That's quite a mellow song. So I mean, I think one of our strengths is we're not all one, hard, fast-paced style, if you like. We do have that mellowness, slower tempo in us, as do most bands, to be fair. Very few bands do one style constantly because you just can't do that as a band. You've got to vary it up a bit. And I think Luxor on the first album is a demonstration of that. I think it shows we can do those mellower numbers like we've done on this second Power Cut album. So I like to think we've got quite a lot of variation in us, which comes, I think, particularly from myself and Anthony being more senior. We've listened to a lot of music over the years.
Speak for yourself.
We've listened to a lot of music over the years, so a lot of influence has gone in you. I think when you're 18, 19 in a band, you've not, for obvious reasons, you've heard less. So, and you're more, just less experience. You've probably got as much talent musically as me and Anthony would have, but you've just heard a lot more over those years. So there's a lot more gone into your subconscious. So when you come to make music, you're drawing on a lot more influence. So yeah, I think that's just how we managed to work at the minute.
So how did your album release go?
Well, it's releasing this Friday, tomorrow actually.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, got it just here. We're looking forward to it. As I say, it's like a lot of artists today. We are independent, obviously. The one good thing about nowadays is, back when me and David were in our teens, the concept of recording your own album without a label behind you, it was just impossible. The cost of the equipment, cost of studios, etc. You just couldn't do it. But now technology's moved on, and we recorded vocals and guitars here basically. The drums we recorded at Dave's house. Dave got quite a much bigger house. Acoustically, it sounded good. I produced the album. We have a distributor, of course. That's all gone very smoothly. Really happy with how things are set up. Again, we had a bit of an experience. We had some experience to draw on from the first album. We knew things like time scales and scheduling, and it's all come together very well. We're really pleased with it, and as I say, it's good because we have built a bit of a following, and we wanted to make sure that we gave our listeners something to sink their teeth into whilst we were really working on this third album, which is, I think, is going to be much more
bigger and better.
Yeah, it will be bigger and it will be better. But we're really pleased with how this has gone. And as I say, we're looking forward to the release, which is obviously tomorrow or tonight at 12 o'clock. So I will be badgering my children and my relatives to stay up tonight and buy it. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
And
So,
sorry, we mentioned we did a gig last week to launch it, didn't we?
Yes, yeah, and that went pretty well. So yeah.
So you're going to write a new album next year? Do any more gigs next year at all?
Yes, I think the plan is to release the album in the summer, as the plan was to release that album this summer. We did start on it, so we've got 3 or 4 tracks that are pretty much finished. We know pretty much the tracks we want on there. So we are some way down the path there really now, and what we've decided to do is, and we decided this last year. We thought we wouldn't be playing many gigs, so we'd have plenty of time to do the album. But then, the gig offers kept coming, and we felt we didn't want to turn them down. We wanted an in.
You gotta take what you can get at this stage.
Yeah,
it's quite hard.
So now we think there might be a bit of a lull, and we're just in the new year. We're just going to crash headlong into recording the album. So hopefully that'll be ready for the early part of the summer. It will be a return, as I've said, to more traditional sound. I think this album's been testing for Alicia. Acoustically, there's not a lot of drum work on there, and it probably doesn't fit your style of music.
Not quite, but I like to experiment, as we said, like especially with Mr. Positive, our new reimagined version. I quite like it. It's sort of more jazz, I'd say, which is obviously very different for all of us. But yeah, it's just experience all at the end of the day.
But this album's going to provide Alicia with a lot more to get her teeth into drum wise. A lot more crash bang and wallop, shall we say. So that's the plan, to release that, get that finished and released in the summer, and then hopefully for the rest of the summer sort of go out and promote it as much as possible, really.
And finally, can you tell me, my listeners, where can they find you on social media?
Sure. Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Cool Rekz, Instagram. That again is just Cool Rekz. It's the one thing about the name as well. It's very easy to.
No one else really has.
Yeah, we do have a Twitter account, but I don't think Twitter's really a platform for music. So again, we're at Cool Rekz there. We do have a WhatsApp news feed, which is very which is probably the best way to connect with us. And people can do that by sending a WhatsApp message to us. I'll just get the number for you.
We have a website as well.
Yeah, new updated website.
Hello, Moto. Yeah, that Cool Rekz number is 07895 766 042. If they send a WhatsApp message to that number on WhatsApp, just saying subscribe, we can add them to that news feed. We tend to update that almost on a daily basis. That's got all the latest news. And Alicia's brother's been helping us with our website. That's coolrekz.co.uk. So COOL and Rekz spelled REKZ, all one word. That's basically went live last week. So that's another way you can connect with us. Obviously, if you're in the local Leicester area, we're getting quite well known now with the local promoters and the venues, and so we'll
as well.
Yeah, we'll be continuing to do live gigs. We've got a YouTube channel. We get quite a lot of views actually, but we don't tend to get. We haven't got an awful lot of subscribers. I think there's an aversion or a reluctance on a lot of people actually to subscribe. But again, YouTube is a platform we're looking to use a lot more going forward. We're looking at shooting a video. Again, we have a friend that's expertised in that area that's agreed to shoot a video for us. We're hoping to get that done during Christmas and into the new year. So we're hoping to use perhaps one of the singles off this new album we will select. So that will then go on to the YouTube channel. So yeah, they're the best ways to get in touch with us, basically.
Thank you for letting me chat to you all today.
That's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks a lot. You take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.